Hello, everyone. Welcome for real this time to the Surrogate Q&A. We were having a few technical difficulties earlier, but we are happy that you're able to join us now for the next 30 minutes or so while we talk all things surrogacy. So my name's Hannah. I am our marketing specialist at Family Source, and I also was actually a one-time surrogate. So I delivered in July of 2022. So it's been about a year and a half. And so I have with me today Jenna and Lauren. So Jenna, can you get us started by just telling us a little bit about yourself and where you are in your journey?
Yeah, so as Hannah said, my name's Jenna. Unfortunately, I had a failed transfer in September, but fortunately, I just had another transfer and it stuck, and now I'm 11 weeks pregnant. Yay!
Yay! We love that. And Lauren, where are you in all of your journeys?
So my name is Lauren. I'm a one-time surrogate. I delivered back in July of this year, and I'm actually currently on my second journey, and I am waiting on medical screening. So hopefully our timeline is looking at a transfer of April for the second one.
That is so exciting. I feel like you just delivered like yesterday. So
I feel it too.
yeah, that's really great that you were able to just jump right back in. So we can kind of start there. And for folks who are watching this live, again, we'll be live for the next 30 minutes or so. So if you're watching us live, you are able to type in the chat any questions you may have, and we're able to answer those live for you right now. So feel free to drop any questions you have or anything you want us to talk about in the chat. But I want to hear from Lauren how you decided to go into a second journey. What was it about your first journey that made you feel like, okay, yep, I want to do that again?
It was the moment that I gave, well, I guess the nurses gave baby to the parents.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of like the ceiling moment for me. I was pretty sure like halfway through my pregnancy, on my last Q&A that I did, I was ready to do another one. I was still pregnant. So that extra moment in the hospital where they got to hold their baby for the first time, it was like, okay, done, doing it again. I don't even care. Went back to my OB and was like, hey, can you please sign off on this? And he's like, you're crazy. Yeah. Love it though. And he signed off and he's ready to go.
That you needed to wait a minute? Like, didn't they at first tell you that it was too soon, or how did you work around that? What happened?
So I actually went in for my new pap smear after, I think it was 6 weeks after delivery. And my OB was great with it. I had an easy delivery, knock on wood, easy pregnancy. So I didn't have many complications. So he was okay with it. And he told me that, I'm getting older, so I have more risks associated as I get older. But other than that, he wasn't too concerned. So.
Yeah. And Jenna, how's this pregnancy going for you? How does it compare to your others?
Honestly, it's about the same as my others, which is one reason that I knew I'd make a good surrogate, because knock on wood, I have never really experienced morning sickness, any of that. The worst I get is like a very mild leg cramp. So yeah, fortunately, everything is going great. And honestly, it's really funny. Like, I'm really hoping to get another ultrasound soon. I know everything's okay, but seriously, pregnancy goes so easy. I'm like, is the baby in there? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on?
So, days and forget about it.
Yeah.
I think that for me was such an interesting part, especially as you get further along in the pregnancy. Lauren, did you feel this way too? Where like, I wasn't planning for a baby afterwards. So all that like time spent by your brain, like figuring out what's going to happen with this baby afterwards, like you don't think about it as much. So then there are some times I would be like 30 weeks pregnant and like forgetting that I wasn't thinking about it as much because that wasn't going to be a part of my life afterwards. Did you have a similar experience, Lauren?
As much as it is a hurry up and wait process to become a surrogate, the pregnancy, I feel, goes by like super quick. Absolutely. And yes, like I didn't have to plan on a nursery. I didn't have to nest. I didn't have to, get everything together. It was a real kind of normal, time period. The only thing I didn't have any symptoms of being pregnant other than me getting larger.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I sometimes forgot I was pregnant.
Wow.
To be
You're all
honest.
lucked out on the lack of symptoms. Jenna, I hope it keeps going that smoothly for you.
Yes, thank you. I agree too what you said, what you asked Lauren, because yeah, I feel like with somebody else's baby, you can enjoy the pregnancy more because you don't have the planning.
Totally. Yeah. It's like, it's very, I mean, as stressful as it is, and as much like pressure as you have on you to like grow a child for someone else, I think it was like a relatively stress-free pregnancy for me, to be honest, because you don't have to do all that extra thinking about what happens after. So that's great. Jenna, have you, what kind of relationship do you have then with your intended parent? Are you like sharing information with them? Are you talking to them regularly? What does that look like while you're pregnant?
Yeah, so we actually have a really good relationship despite having an age gap. He's a single man, I'm a married woman, but honestly, like everything's going really smooth. We both have ADHD and we're both very socially awkward. So from the very beginning of our journey, we both started telling each other daily jokes or daily facts. So we don't text each other all day, every day, but we at least send one text a day, just kind of letting each other know how our day was, what we did, a little brief summary, and then our fact or our joke. So it's been really good.
I am obsessed with that. I love that for you. I think that's like the perfect example of like every match is so unique and different and works for the people in it in a very unique way. So that is an incredible way of being like, here's just how we both are. Here's how we're going to connect and what we're going to connect on. So, Lauren, have you like carried on that relationship then after delivery at all? Was that part of your intention? What did that look like during pregnancy versus after?
So when we matched the very first time, we were on the same page of we were going to keep in contact through and after delivery. We do still keep in contact. It's not as often as we were when I was pregnant with their child. And I get it. They're, moving into or trying to get into the whole being a parent for the first time. They didn't have that option or weren't able to do it before. So I gave them their space and they still send me updates. They still send me pictures. Like I said, not as often as it was, but I'm so grateful that we still have the relationship we do.
Mm-hmm. And then you've obviously matched again now. Was there like different factors or things that you were looking for going into the second match process since you've already done it one time?
No, not really. I'm still pretty open. I'm pretty flexible with, I believe everyone deserves a chance to have a child. I did, I chose to help a couple who doesn't have any children. I did see some profiles that they wanted a sibling from a different surrogate or something like that. I chose to pass on that and help with someone who didn't have any children at all, but that's the surrogate's preference. That was just mine. But no, other than that, no, not really.
Yeah. Jenna, did you travel for transfer or for your screenings or anything, or are they local?
So technically local, but I do live 3 hours away, so it wasn't an awful drive. But yeah, so I short traveled.
That's fair. It's not quite as fun as a plane ride, but 3 hour
Honestly,
drive.
it worked out really nice because the intended dad was awesome and got me a hotel room, and my husband and kids stayed home. So it was like a little mini vacation all to myself. So I actually, honestly, I enjoyed it.
I think that's part of surrogacy that is not talked about enough, to be honest with you, is some of those like little moments in there that you kind of get for yourself. I know my own kids were very young. I mean, they still are very young, but I have a 3 and a 5-year-old. And I know like for me after delivery, my husband and I were joking that like, if I wanted a vacation, I could have just asked for it, but the hospital stay afterwards like felt like a vacation in a lot of ways because you're at a hospital, you're not caring for a baby. I could like call on the phone and somebody would bring me food. Like, I mean, that's an all-inclusive situation there. So yes, you're recovering from childbirth, but there are perks that I think are not discussed. Lauren, did you travel for transfer at all?
Yeah, I'm from Ohio, so my intended parents were international. So their fertility clinic was in San Diego, California. So yes, I flew for both medical screening and transfer.
And then what was that experience like for you?
It was fun.
Yeah, so you had fun with it?
I've never been to California, so I mean, it was a free paid trip to California. I got to dip my toes in the Pacific Ocean, which I'm East Coast or well Midwesterner, I
Yeah.
guess.
Go ahead.
But I'm used to going on the East Coast. So, fun fact: Pacific Ocean is cold.
It
Wouldn't have thought,
is.
but it is cold.
Every time I go to California, I'm like surprised.
Yes. Yes. It's
yeah.
nice and warm there, but no, water is cold.
Right. And then, I mean, we had somebody comment and say specifically that they got separation anxiety being away from their kids for medical screening. So like that is definitely something that you should be aware of going into it, is that there may be travel involved, but you can specify, depending on where you live, that you don't want to be gone for that long. So like Jenna, you could have not spent the night at the hotel if you really wanted to do 6-hour driving in one day, or like I chose to have intended parents who were local because my little one at the time was, I mean, he was just over a year old. So I didn't want to leave him for that long, just while I was at the beginning of my journey. So
yeah, that's
I
specifically, that's specifically why I chose local. So yeah.
Those options are definitely out there. Again, I think it depends on like how rural the area where you live is, but like I'm near Chicago, so I was open to anybody who was really within like the Chicago area. So I think it just, again, depends on your preference, but there are options out there if you don't want to travel. And then there are options out there if the traveling feels like a kind of a good thing for you. So, so that's all good to know. So you traveled for medical screening and then again for transfer. Let's talk about the legal process. Was that smooth sailing for you? Anything you learned from that you wish you knew before you got to legal? Lauren, let's start with you on that one.
As soon as you're a surrogate, you're entered into a support group that is hosted by FSC. Amazing. There's so many different journeys that are encompassed with that group, and different avenues that people went down. I didn't know how long it took. I mean, people said it took long. It does, and I had international couple too, so language barrier was an extra, so many days where they wanted to go through the contract with a fine-tooth comb, and I get it. But I'm sitting over here like refreshing my email.
like where is the revised contract? Yes.
Right. Can I have that, please? Expectation was pretty open. It was my first journey. I didn't have many expectations to start with, so everything kind of just fell as it was.
Yeah, I think that's good to know. And the folks who are attorneys in this field, they're specialized in just doing this, really. So you don't need to know too much going into it. They'll walk you through and tell you what you need to know. So I know it felt like an intimidating process for me initially, but legal is okay if you have an attorney that you trust who you can ask questions to. So Jenna, how was legal for you? Was it any parts of it surprising to you at all?
It was entertaining nonetheless. It basically went smoothly. I know it was really funny. I don't know if you're supposed to do this, but the intended dad called me, and like before we talked to our attorneys, we basically told each other what we wanted in there, because if you don't do that ahead of time, there's a lot of back and forth. Like say I want something specific, then the lawyer has to type all of that out, send it to the intended parent, and then if they want something changed, and then it's just back and forth, and it takes longer. So we actually discussed everything over the phone. We're both very laid back, easygoing. There wasn't anything specific that we really wanted to put in there. So I think from beginning to end, it only took about 3 weeks, which I know seems super long, but it could be worse. But what made it kind of more complex is my intended dad is from a state that's not surrogacy friendly, which means he cannot go through a surrogate in the state he lives. So he's close enough to Illinois where I live, that basically, obviously he got me, which I'm from Illinois, so he got an Illinois surrogate where it is surrogacy friendly. So it just goes all by Illinois law. But the entertaining thing is I'm not close to Chicago. I am close to the Quad Cities. So I'm about 40 minutes away from Iowa. So most of the doctors and stuff I'm finding right now, because I just found my local OB that I can go to, I'm finding that most of the ones that will take me are in Iowa, but they can't take me because once I'm 30 weeks pregnant, I can't leave the state of Illinois. So I basically found one within a 50-mile radius in my state that is actually accepting surrogates.
That is so interesting, living kind of on the border like that. That's something to think about for sure, because in surrogacy, states are so important, and what state you're in matters in a legal sense, in a practical sense. Like, I live near the border of Wisconsin. Wisconsin's like 15 minutes from here, but I'm also in Illinois. And I know that was like a thing. Like, my sister lives in Wisconsin. So in my contracts, we were trying to figure out, at what point can I not go visit my sister right across the border who lives 20 minutes from me? Like, and it was, I think it was like 32 weeks, because even after that, they were like, you really, really, really cannot leave the state, even if you're like literally just stepping over the border. So, so it's, I mean, it's interesting to think about. So if you're somebody who wants to be a surrogate and you live near a state's border, that might be really important to think about. So very good point. What else has kind of surprised you about the process so far, Jenna, since you're kind of in the, not the early stages? I mean, you're obviously pregnant, but you haven't made it all the way through the journey quite yet.
I mean, the only other thing I can think of that kind of surprised me, I mean, when you go into it, you're so excited, especially if pregnancy comes very easy to you. You think, oh, IVF, that's just extra help. I'm going to get pregnant immediately right away. So I was really, really taken back when I had that failed transfer, because at first you're like, what did I do? But with IVF, it creates so many more risks and complications that I feel like needs to be talked about more.
I 100% agree. And I mean, I am so sorry that happened to you and your intended parent. It is refreshing to hear about those stories, I think, because we all just want to hope that it works the first time and works great. And then sometimes, and oftentimes it doesn't. So, and there's truly nothing else you can do and nothing else that could have been done. So, you know, it's hard, I think, probably going through that as a surrogate, even though it's not your baby, but you experience loss in a very unique way. So
Yeah,
thank you for speaking up about it.
Yeah, it makes you feel bad for the intended parents, and it also something else to think about, because again, if you do want to travel and you travel a couple states away by plane and you leave your family for a couple days and you do have that anxiety, it's one thing to leave them once, but then to leave them twice or three times, or God forbid, even four times, that's that much time away from your family that you're doing a transfer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all they can really do is like change your medication. Did they change your medication or anything the second time around, or did you just?
Not a whole lot. They added that I take one more of the same pill I'd already been taking. I was taking it twice with the first transfer, so they upped it to 3 times, and then they added in a baby Tylenol. So that's really the only thing that changed. But I'm blessed that that's the only thing they changed, because I heard some clinics, their protocol for round 2 are like way more complicated.
Yeah. Lauren, do you even remember your medical protocol? What you were taking?
I can, and we actually just discussed this, because I am working with a different clinic this time. So when I was talking to the nurse with the clinic, she was going through medication and she said Lupron. I didn't do Lupron last time. I just did oral estrogen and progesterone. That was it.
Yeah.
I did do baby aspirin too, but yeah. So when I spoke to the nurse, she was like, "Oh, well, if you still have a copy of your protocol from last time, send it over and we'll see if the doctor will mimic it." So I'm hoping that they let me do it the way it worked last time and hope for the best. But yeah, I just did oral estrogen and progesterone.
The injections for the progesterone?
Mm-hmm.
Did either of you have to do suppositories for anything?
That was the difference. So I don't know how that works, but it was estrogen. But the pill I took, I also had to do like one suppository a day, but it was the same oral pill. They just told me to take it as a suppository. So
The
I don't know.
estrogen, I feel like you're on like 1,000,000 of them a day. So it makes sense to me that some of them would be in different forms. That was all. I didn't have to do suppositories, but I did the Lupron shots. I feel like those were the least of my worries. those were nothing, because you start with those and then you're like, oh, it's this little tiny baby needle in my stomach. I can do that all day. And then you switch to progesterone and you're like, oh shoot, this is intense.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any like tips or tricks now that you've gone through progesterone shots and how you managed with that?
Which one of us?
Which one?
Lauren, do you remember?
Yeah, I warmed it up because of the viscosity of the oil. It gets thinner when it gets warmer. So it goes through your muscle a little easier than if it were, cold right out of the vial. So I would actually put it like my bra while I'm walking around the house, fixing, my cleaning up after my son and whatever. And then by the time I'm ready to actually do the shot, it's nice and thin. And I did it myself. My husband's deathly afraid of needles, so I couldn't lean on him.
Yourself your own progesterone shots?
Mm-hmm.
Man, every time I hear about somebody doing that, I'm so amazed.
And it was such a mind over matter thing. The first one was the worst because it took me like 15 minutes to amp myself up to actually do it. And then I did it. I was like, what was I worried about? Like, that was it.
Really?
And then I massaged it afterwards for a couple minutes and on with my day. But
oh my gosh. And you were doing it twice a day, morning and night?
I was doing it just at night.
Okay. Yeah. I think I had to do it morning and night for some of the time, and that was tricky because you're supposed to switch sides. So when it's just once a day, it's like, oh, well, I'll just do it on my right side today and my left side tomorrow. But when you're hitting both sides every day, that's when it started to be really uncomfortable. Jenna, do you remember?
When you run out of room.
Finished. You do. You run out of spaces and then you're going over the same spot and it gets really tricky. But Jenna, did you do it twice a day? Do you remember?
No, I did it once a day. And fortunately, I just finished a week ago. Woohoo!
Congratulations!
Those last couple weeks, I swear, those last couple weeks, I'm like, is it gonna make a difference if I stop a little early? Like, because then you run out of spots.
It will.
But yeah, honestly, my advice, and it sounds crazy, but like Lauren, do it yourself if you can. I don't know if it's just me or just us, but my husband actually did my first couple weeks. Because just the thought of putting a needle that long. I mean, the needle's long. It's a good. It's not a little baby needle like the stomach one. So I had him do it initially, but he's one of those. He'll just do it really fast. And for me, I found that when I started doing it myself, I think he had a work party or something, and he was out really late. I'm like, well, I have to do it, and I don't want to wait up for him to get home, so I might as well suck it up and do it. And like Lauren said, it took me like a good 15, 20 minutes, and then I was like, you know what? And then once it's in there, you're like, okay, I can do this. So yeah, and I didn't warm it up. I didn't do any of that because my kids are 2 and 4. So I'm doing good just to get the needle in there before they run into the room and ask me what I'm doing. So 100%. Yeah, so I did it as fast as I could, but the last couple weeks was kind of rough. I'm not going to lie. So I got like a heating pad and I sat on it and then I massaged.
Yeah. I'm feeling so hyped up just by y'all doing it by yourselves. I'm amazed by this.
Who needs a man?
Surrogates watching have done it mostly by themselves or had a partner do it. I was way too afraid.
I'm tired of waiting on him. I would wait and be like, okay, I'm ready. You have to pump yourself up for it. It's not something you can just be like, I'm going to ease into this. So I'd tell him like, I'm ready. Let's do this. And he'd be like, okay, just give me a minute. I have to do this. And then by that time, my whatever, I wasn't pumped up to do it anymore. And then my anxiety,
adrenaline's gone.
Never mind. I'll just do it myself. And it worked out better.
That's amazing. I know it worked better for me when I was standing up. This is not something I would have thought to do, but laying down, anytime I was laying down, it hurt more, I think. And then when I was like standing up over a counter, I read it on some blog somewhere that was like the way to do it. And so I tried it one time and that was it felt way better. So then that's the only way that I did it after that. So you find what works for you. And Lauren, I love that you talked about the surrogate support group before. So we have a Facebook group for family source surrogates. And these are the types of things that come up often is like, how do you do your progesterone shots? Or where do I put this? Or my clinic is closed tonight and I need this information about like where on my body it goes. So
that's how I learned how to do it, because bizarrely enough, my clinic did not tell me how to do it. I don't know if they just assume if you don't ask, you just must know what you're doing. But I watched a YouTube video and I was in a support group. Thank goodness there was a support group like 2 days before I was supposed to do my first injection. And yeah,
I was in that.
I think
I remember
that. To say, we got you.
Thank you.
I feel like I remember that post.
Yeah. It was a Zoom call. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that folks can stay in the support group too, like if they're between journeys or if they've completed one and now they're on another one. So you really do have people in that group who are at all different stages of completing journeys. So and there's staff, and like I know I'm in there because I work there, and it's really helpful to to get that help from people who have done this a million times with people. So
I've actually had one of the girls in our support group ran out of estrogen and their clinic was closed.
Oh, wow.
So she couldn't get any, and we live like maybe 15 minutes away from each other, and she messaged me. She goes, "Do you have any estrogen left?" I'm like, I want to say 30 weeks pregnant. Luckily, I saved mine, and she came by and picked some up so that she could continue her journey, because she was, I think, right before her transfer date. So it was very imperative that she had that estrogen. But yeah, she came over and grabbed some and went on her merry way.
That is so cool.
It definitely helps.
I mean, we have surrogates all over the place. So even out in Ohio, you're like, yep, I live 15 minutes from another FSC surrogate. So
yep.
That's amazing. What would you do differently going into another journey? Lauren, is there anything in particular now that you're kind of starting on journey 2?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it just went so well the first time. I mean, that's good news.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, my journey was really like bump free. I mean, we didn't really run into any issues. No, not really.
That's fantastic. Jenna, do you have anything off the top of your head that if you were doing it again?
Yeah, so be extremely picky. I know that's like calling the kettle black, because I rushed as fast as I could, because I kept telling my husband, he got so tired of hearing it, but I just kept telling him, I want to be pregnant. I want to be pregnant. Like, I just want to hurry up and be pregnant. So I rushed through the matching. I rushed through the legal. So looking back, again, I love my IP. I'm so thankful that I got matched with him. He's extremely easy to get a hold of when I need to get a hold of him. But be picky and look through those profiles, because they're going to be picky too. You're going to be stuck with them for at least a year. So you really
if not longer.
Yeah, if not longer. Yeah, I mean, it took me 9 months before I finally got a confirmed pregnancy. So now we've got another 9 months. Well, a little less than more than 9 months. But so yeah, and then with legal, again, I almost wonder if I would have taken a little more time. Maybe I could have had it worked out where I could still go to Iowa for an hour or so, as long as I'm back within an hour or so. But now I'm pretty much stuck, and it is what it is. But I did used to go shopping and stuff over there. So as soon as I'm 30 weeks now, I can't. So yes, just be very, very picky and try your best to just be patient and think every step through before you just hurry up and knock another step out.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And I think that being picky, like it's so hard as a surrogate specifically, because you're doing this to help somebody. Usually, like, you're doing this because you really want to help. And so when you're looking at profiles, everybody whose profile you see, they all need a surrogate. Like, they would all be grateful for this. They all want it for different reasons and need it in their lives. And you can be that person for any of them. So it's really hard to say no, or to say like, no, I don't think this is a good fit for me, because you just want to help. Like, I get it, but finding a fit that's right for you, I think is just as important. So really good point. I think, especially as you start looking through profiles.
Can I jump in on that one?
Please.
So I noticed a big difference from my first journey and into my second. Um, and because it may be because I did jump from, the end of this pregnancy into, reapplying to be a surrogate.
Mhm.
But I found that as a first time surrogate, I was like, let's go, let's go, let's go. Like, I'm excited. I'm like pumped up. Let's go. And then with my second one, I couldn't. Let's go. Like, it was,
Yeah.
I can't do it until I'm at least 9 months postpartum. So I had time that I felt was less rushed, I guess I could say.
Yeah.
I didn't have to have answers right away because I was on a time frame, or on a, not a time frame, but
Like you already had that time constraint on you.
right. So
Totally.
like I didn't have to hurry and go through all the steps as quickly as I could because I have to wait no matter what.
Right.
So it was a different experience this time around than it was.
Yeah.
But yes, I rushed through my first one. I fell in love with my IPs. Luckily we have a great relationship and it was a wonderful experience. And I don't think I would have changed anything, but yes, I do understand the whole rushing through because you're so excited.
You're
to
so
help somebody.
excited. I totally get that. So,
and it's a new experience too. It's something that you're looking forward to. So of course it's like going to a theme park tomorrow. Like I want to go ride all the roller coasters. Like
right.
You can't sleep the night before because you're so excited. So I get it, but I also see the other side on my second journey because I didn't have to rush through it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, just use your brain on it. Honestly, I was in a situation before. I feel like I've told this story on Q&As before, but before I found Family Source, I thought I was going to do an independent journey because I met somebody in a Facebook group that's just like local to me, like local mom. Somebody was looking and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. I could be a surrogate, and like started a process with them, started having conversations with them. I even went through medical screening with them. I just didn't know hardly anything about surrogacy. Like I knew nothing. I didn't have an agency. I was just like going for it because I was excited. And I was like, this is a new thing. This will be cool. I'm so excited. And we got to legal and everything kind of just fell apart because I wasn't asking the right questions and I just hadn't known what I was looking for or what I needed. And then I'm so glad that I ended, like at the time, of course, I was like, oh, this is my fault. This is awful. This is falling apart. And I feel so bad. But then I found Family Source like later that week, and then had like actual folks able to like coach me through the process and help me and assist. And that was a huge game changer for me. So with the Family Source situation, I don't think like I rushed through, like the process moved fast, but it all felt right. But there was a whole situation I was in before that just didn't sit right. It didn't feel right. And I was not listening to like any of the red flags because I was just excited. So just make sure that you are using your brain. I love that advice. Anything else before we wrap up? I want to be cognizant of everyone's time, but Jenna or Lauren, do you have any like parting words for people who are thinking about becoming surrogates or just in the really, really early stages?
So one other thing I would recommend, I know I could talk all night long. I would recommend holding your ground. I know like when it comes to medical stuff, especially, I won't mention, my standpoint because everybody's allowed to have their own opinion. But when it comes to your medical care, you need to do exactly what makes you comfortable and don't accept any less. So I know a big hot topic is vaccines. Should you get it? Should you not? If you feel like you should get it, then make sure you match with somebody that is on the same page as you. And if you're uncomfortable with it, then make sure that your intended parent is comfortable with you not getting it. Or whatever.
Vice versa.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm like totally on the opposite side of that, where I needed my intended parents to be okay with me getting vaccines because some intended parents don't want you to get vaccines while you're carrying their baby. So making sure that whatever stance you're on with vaccination specifically, that you are aligned with the medical provider as well as your intended parents. That's awesome advice. I think I want to specify though, you don't get to do what you want about the medical process. Right. So like, just like if there's a medical protocol, I know I'm in like other Facebook groups with other surrogates. And sometimes I've seen posts in there that are like, I don't really want to take this many medications, or I don't want to do this many shots. Like that part's not up to you, but the vaccinations though, I totally
Yeah, that's
agree
what I
with you.
mean. Is like when you get to like your viable pregnancy and you're off your medication, a lot of people think going into it they don't have to disclose all that. Or another hot topic, how would you feel if you had to terminate in very, very specific scenarios? So thank goodness for Family Source, because in our match meeting we go over all of that, so we don't have to be the ones to ask the uncomfortable questions. Because again, if medical stuff like that is not discussed, then you're going to have a really awkward situation later on when you get a hiccup in your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Lauren, any other parting advice you have for new that we haven't talked about yet? I feel like we covered a lot of it.
Yeah.
The only thing I would have to say, if you're on the fence, I'll push you over the fence so you can talk to somebody. Just talk. It doesn't mean you're signing up. It doesn't mean that you have to go and fly to another, city to get medical screening and all that. Just not. You don't even have to apply. You can just chat with somebody or request more information. Because if you're on the fence already, then there's a good chance that there's a reason why you're on the fence already.
Yeah.
So just take the extra step and talk to somebody. If it doesn't feel right for you after you talk to somebody, then y'all can part ways. But I'm glad I took this step, obviously, because I'm on my second one. But
you're doing it again.
Most surrogates love talking about surrogacy. So even if you're scared to reach out to an agency, seriously, just find one of us on Facebook and you'll know it's us, because most surrogates, again, will put in their profile, proud surrogate. So you'll know who's a surrogate. And then you can private message us.
who did that?
Yeah, you can drop a comment on any of our Facebook things. You could even just message the Facebook account. We monitor that as well. So feel free to get in contact with us through social media or through, there's just like a little pop-up on our website that's like, want more information? Like, reach out to us here, and then somebody can get in contact with you. I think that's a great point, Lauren. You aren't like immediately in an intake meeting at that point. We can just chat and provide some information for you. So we are always happy to speak about our experiences. To me, again, it was one of the best things that I ever chose to do and got to be a part of, and what a privilege. So we love talking about it. So thank you all for joining the conversation tonight, Lauren and Jenna. I appreciate your time, and everyone watching. Thank you again for joining. We'll talk to you all soon. Bye, everyone.